Well, good morning, everybody, and I just want to start you off with some satellite imagery here. I've been kind of watching a lot of it lately. This fall pattern has been quite interesting to kind of diagnose and figure out where it's going. And as I was watching the sunset last night, a couple of neat things were coming across as satellite imagery here in the Pacific Northwest. One, we still have several large fires that have degraded air quality. You can see them right here along the Cascade Mountains. But what I really found fascinating was this cloud field right here. All right, so we have this Rex block, what we call a high over a low block. So the flow is coming out of the north. And what's interesting is it was going over the mountains here in like the Payette National Forest and the Rockies, the Salmon River Valley, which is in here, into the Snake River Valley. We ended up getting a series of lenticular clouds. Do you see them right here? So the mountains forced the clouds, a standing wave developed, and right over the top of the Snake River Valley, the second wave showed up, which is right there. So pretty amazing to see that kind of feature. I don't see that a lot where I live because everything is just so flat here in Illinois, but just an amazing view here in the west. Now, this same upper level blocking pattern has delivered a pretty strong cold front. You can see it right here through the midsection of the country, and behind it are some very strong winds. And that's why our all hazards weather map today reflects those wind advisories, fire watches out ahead of this, and then red flag warnings across several places here in the central and northern plains. Now, just to show you on the backside, this is where the air quality alerts still exist. We do have frost and freeze warnings for parts of the Snake River Valley and also down here in parts of Colorado. But what we're going to be watching here today is the front continuing to advance, the strong winds behind it increasing the fire risk and the severe weather risk out ahead of it. So this is how things look kind of in the middle of the day. Let's zoom in here and have a good look. You see, here's the strong winds, very dry conditions out of the northwest. We do see that there is ample moisture getting pulled out of the Gulf of Mexico along the main front later on today, which will sit somewhere in this vicinity. And that's where we're going to be watching parts of like Arkansas, getting over to Tennessee, Mississippi, this region for the risk of strong to severe storms. And as this front comes through, it's really going to deliver a lot of dry and cold air on the backside. And it's just the first of two fronts we've been talking about. Also, this is Tropical Storm Carl. I haven't talked too much about Carl because we haven't had a lot of evidence that Carl was going to move to the north, and the latest forecast track data from the National Hurricane Center suggests that it does go south through the Bay of Campeche toward parts of Mexico. Now, ahead of that front that's passing through, we have had some rainfall. You can see stretching from Texas through Oklahoma, parts of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, all the way up to Michigan, parts of even Nebraska and Iowa, where last night in Nebraska there were some strong storms in through this area. Well, this is kind of the prefrontal rain that we were watching, and the main front is going to sweep through this morning through this same area right in through here, delivering a bit more rain. But it'll be later today that we're going to keep an eye, again, Arkansas, Mississippi, parts of Alabama, Tennessee, for the risk of some of these storms to be stronger. So to see that all unfold, let's go straight to the 9 o'clock Central Time high-res NAM model and forecast forward throughout the rest of the day. So the front comes through, actually end up developing a second cold front behind it right in through here, on which we see another band of showers. But we'll be watching this area this afternoon and this evening, really this evening, for the stronger storms to come through. Could get some scattered storms throughout the eastern Corn Belt as well. Now, as that low clears east, look at how much wet weather we're going to see in the in the northeast. I'll talk more about the Pacific Northwest in a second. And look at the colder air on the backside delivering some snow showers from Manitoba to Ontario, parts of Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and around the Great Lakes. And that front seems to clear the Carolinas and then eventually New England by the time we get out there to early Friday morning. And that's when this really cold, dry air mass, the first one advances. The second one is taking shape after that. But when you put this all together, this is total accumulated precipitation from the latest outlook from the WPC. And there's a couple of factors we're going to be watching. First is the big push, the first one happening now. There's a second front that comes through on Sunday, delivering more rain to this area. And then that Rex block, that high over low block here, is going to take a cutoff low that's sitting in this vicinity and move it over this weekend over Arizona, New Mexico, and into Texas, delivering some locally very heavy rainfall. Now, you do notice that where all the dry air keeps coming through, much of the plains and Midwest, that is the area that we've been very dry for the last month. This is the latest 30-day precipitation anomaly graph where we're looking at percent of normal precipitation. And I'll just say this, I am expecting quite a bit of change of this as we get toward the end of this month, especially starting in the Pacific Northwest and then through the central part of the United States. So where that change is going to come from, we've been watching this since Monday, is that we're going to see this pattern over here really stick around through the weekend into early next week. all right? That is what we call a Rex block, or a high over low block. See, there's a ridge with a trough to the south of it. And that pattern, when we say block, means it gets stuck and doesn't move. So it sticks around for at least a week. Deeper troughs sit over here in the east like we're experiencing now. And the convergent flow in the middle is why things are drier. The west is mild, especially in the Pacific Northwest. We got to watch that cutoff low move through the southwest over Texas. Who's wet? This region and this region, all right? What we're seeing, though, out there around the 22nd, 23rd, 24th is that the momentum is really going to start to pick up right here at first and into the Bering Sea, and then drop a pretty substantial trough into the Pacific Northwest. And we'd been talking about this since Monday, suggesting that if the MJO continues to progress because of what La Nina is doing, we could start to see the pattern knock out that ridge and develop a trough. This brings in cooler and wetter weather to the Pacific Northwest. This starts to deliver better shots at milder air across, this section of the country, but it's also going to increase the frequency of these low pressure systems. But that's still quite a ways away. So what you're going to see here in the high-res European is that there's the first front clearing. Here comes the second one. That's the one I was talking about coming through Saturday night and Sunday morning. Here's the upper level low coming out of Arizona into Mexico and Texas. This is now Monday into Tuesday. And then what you're going to watch after that is a bunch of high pressure until right up here at the very end of the latest European run, change is starting to come through. That's around the 21st. So we put it all together. Here's the week 1 precipitation anomalies. We've explained this story, I think, pretty well. But here's the latest updates in the week 2. You now start to see increased chances of precipitation here in the Pacific Northwest. And I have struggled mightily with trying to figure out when this is going to change. But some better model evidence since Monday has kind of built up my confidence that this is going to occur. All right, what are the temperatures going to do? Well, this is today's high temperatures. But with that front slicing through, there's tomorrow and then getting into Friday. Now there's a warm-up in the plains and certainly a maintenance of mild conditions under the ridge here in the Pacific Northwest, but the reinforcing shot at colder air starts on Saturday and then comes through here on Sunday into Monday. The cooler weather down here is all cloud cover and rain driven. The warmer weather here is under the Rex block, and that colder air starts to really extend east by next Tuesday. But we're going to be watching, again, next Thursday, Friday for this pattern to start to shift around. You can even see it in the forecast for the temperatures. So here in the near term, this 5-day sliding window of temperatures really shows us that much of the next 7-8 days favors a ridge west and deeper troughs east. But watch as I go now into day 10 through 15. Watch the west. See the colder air arriving? See the warmth returning to the midsection of the country? That's the pattern shift we're watching very carefully. What's driving all of this? Some shifts in the trade winds, the MJO movement, and this is all prompted by La Nina. So from there, let's see what La Nina is doing elsewhere around the world. One of the major areas I'm concerned about right now for spring planting is Argentina. This is the 2-month drought indicator map from CHIRPS, and you continue to see that along the Parana River toward Buenos Aires, and even cutting in here on Cordoba. We've had some very, very dry spring weather, and it's caused a lot of delays here. The issue is that over the next 10 days, there's not really much relief in sight. The narrow frontal boundary stretches from parts of Parana through Mato Grosso and Mato Grosso do Sul, and then western Mato Grosso, whereas the eastern growing areas are staying drier while the monsoonal rains have yet to fill in. But the main story for me is right down here in Argentina, Rio Grande do Sul, and Uruguay. This whole region is continuing to stay very dry, and that includes parts of southern Paraguay as well. This is going to be a major story going forward. We need to keep a very close eye on this to see if this breaks down and rain gets delivered to this area. So I'll keep watching it this week. We'll talk again tomorrow. Thanks.